just say welcome to all of the candidates that have taken the time out of your schedule to learn more about Microsoft's opportunities, and specifically very excited because tonight we're going to introduce the Microsoft Windows team. And they have some really cool opportunities. I think, the Microsoft Windows organization and the team works on products that we recognize and that we have probably all touched at some point, utilizing a computer on Windows. So this is a really exciting opportunity, not only for you guys as candidates, but also for me as a presenter and as a fan of Microsoft. I also have a software engineering background. So these events are really fun and informative for me as well. But remember, when you've joined the event, to stay on mute and then also turn off your video so that we can maximize our focus and attention on the Microsoft Windows team. Okay, so first things first, I like to go over quickly our agenda for the evening. I'll do a brief welcome, introducing myself, my organization, and our history of Microsoft. I'll then introduce you to our keynote speaker this evening, which is Mark Alcazar. Then once Mark kind of gives you an overview of Microsoft and the Microsoft Windows team, then I will introduce the team members that have also volunteered their time to share their experiences, what they do on the Microsoft Windows team. And if everyone could make sure to mute themselves as they join in. Please mute, and then you can turn off your video as well. So the only folks we'll have on video will be folks from the Microsoft team. So thank you. Okay, so I'll introduce you guys to each of the Microsoft Windows team members, talk a little bit about their background, their experiences, so that you can learn more about what they do, how you might be able to identify, with their experiences and how they might be similar to your own. And then, all of the cool reasons why you might want to work for Microsoft and the Microsoft Windows team. Then we'll have a panel discussion, get to know Microsoft a little bit better and the Microsoft Windows team culture. So I'll ask a few questions that I have prepared on your behalf to learn a little bit more and dive a little bit deeper. And then we'll have a chance for you to ask some live Q&A, questions of the Microsoft Windows team for the benefit of everybody on the call. However, if you have questions during the event, feel free to ask those questions in the chat, utilizing the text chat in the group. And then I'm going to ask that the Microsoft team members that are present will help answer some of those questions as we go. All right, then after the live Q&A, we'll close out the event and talk about next steps and how you can potentially land an interview with the Microsoft Windows team. All right, so quick brief overview about myself. I know a lot of you guys probably are familiar with me from all of the email communications that I have sent out to make sure that you join us, right, for this event. Very excited to have you guys. One thing that I want to reiterate is that this is not just an opportunity for you to learn more about Microsoft or the Microsoft Windows team. This is also an opportunity for you to engage, for you to ask questions, and for you to potentially land an interview. So there will be specific, interview, events happening or event slots for folks that attend this event. So this is a real opportunity.
Will, you're on mute.
I think somebody muted all and made that happen.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, hey, I wanted to make sure that you guys take advantage of this event. If you have questions, make sure to ask those questions of the team members that are here and utilizing the chat window. Also, we'll have that live Q&A, but these are real opportunities. There will be interviews, for real opportunities on the team for working for Microsoft Windows. And this is not just a branding event. This is not just, an info session. So this is an opportunity for you to get to know the team better, engage, and then learn next steps for potentially landing that interview. All right. So I usually try to keep it brief on my part of the, the presentation. I'll engage some of the team members and bring out and ask some questions as we go. But without further ado, let me introduce our keynote speaker, who is Mark Alcazar. So Mark is the Partner Director of Engineering within the Microsoft Windows organization. Mark, if you're ready.
Yep. Thanks so much, Will. So I'm super excited to be here today and, be the keynote speaker at this session. The first slide is a little bit about my background. I'll go into that a little bit more as we go through the presentation. Next slide, please. So today, I'll go over a little bit about myself. I'll step back a little bit, talk about Microsoft's mission and purpose, because that's very important. I'll talk a little bit about Windows business, and then I'll talk a little bit about our team at a high level, and then that will segue into each of the team members from Microsoft introducing themselves. Next slide, please. So I thought I would start with a little bit of the personal stuff. I've worked at Microsoft for over 24 years. There's a list of the products I've worked on there, including Internet Explorer, Silverlight. Oh, go back. Wait. I'll talk about in the next slide a little bit about my career progression. Some of the fun stuff I love to do. I love to enjoy the outdoors. I go snowboarding in the winter, go hiking or boating in the summer, and I love to cook for my family. Some of the other things, love dark chocolate. I'm originally not from the US. I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago and married with 2 beautiful children. Next slide, please. So I tried to put all of my Microsoft career, all 24 years, in one entire slide. And of course, it was way too much. So these are the highlights. I worked on, writing a layout and text layout engine. I worked on Internet Explorer for several years, and I started off as an individual developer. At some point in time in my career, I was always giving opinions about how things should be. I was very active and like, oh, I think we should do this. I think we should do this. And then somebody, tapped me on the shoulder and said, I think you should be a lead. That's great. You have all these opinions on how we should run things. Now you're going to help us be a lead. And I think that is some of, the career progression for those of us who go into management. We started as a lead. I talked about, it's later in the slide, how I first then became a development manager for a product called Silverlight, and then worked through many iterations of that product, and then became director of development for the Windows Developer Platform several years ago. Next slide. So stepping way back, Microsoft has a mission which is empowering every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. I think what is unique about our company is how much that whole mission, everybody really believes in it, how much it imbues everything we do, how much it affects what we work on. And when we say it, we really mean it. When we say every person and every organization, for example, what does that actually mean? That means our products have to be accessible, because it means it needs to be able to be used by everyone. We want to reach everybody on the planet and every person. And I think what is also really uplifting is such a uplifting and positive mission and purpose, which is about doing more, achieving more, being more productive. Next slide, please. So this is the Microsoft Summary Corporate View, which is a very dense slide, which is intended to show our mission, our purpose, our areas of investment, and how we think about our culture. I won't go into very deep detail on this slide. I think one of the things I'll call out is, the solution areas. This is not about products. This is areas of focus for our company and what we invest in. So you're not seeing a laundry list of products here. And this is how, these are umbrellas under which products are. So when we see modern life and modern work, this is where Windows fits in, which is our team. So we are about enabling people to do, live their lives through their PC with Windows, and then be more productive at work through Windows. At the bottom, there's a line item on culture. Another unique thing about our company is how strong our culture is, and to the great efforts we go to make sure everybody is clear on our, corporate mission and values. We really believe in the growth mindset, which means everybody can learn and accomplish more things and take risks. We spend a lot of time on clarifying people's our values and making it clear to everybody, and as well as lots of great training on leadership principles and management. Next slide, please. So that was the zoom out of Microsoft and purpose. Like zooming a little bit more on Windows. Obviously, a huge product that everybody is somewhat familiar with. We have over 1.2 billion devices running Windows 10, which is our mainstream current release. And what we've seen over the past year, as everybody has been working from home, schooling from home, dramatic increase on usage over the past year, and it really emphasizes, it highlights, the PC and Windows strong suit around being able to be really productive, large screen with a mouse and keyboard. Next slide, please. So our team is part of Windows Engineering. The name of the team is Windows Developers and Experiences. And there's several aspects about what we actually do. So first of all, our team is responsible for all the end user experience of the Windows shell. That is when you are using the taskbar, the start menu, action center, all of those surfaces are what our team contributes to and writes code for and produces. We're also responsible for the developer platform for Windows. I have a whole laundry list of all the things we do and what that entails, but lots of APIs and surface area. I think what's also really exciting there is it's interesting and challenging, as well as you get to interact with developers and focus on enabling great apps on Windows, which is all really exciting. And then the final component of our team is there are a whole bunch of what I call Windows subsystems. These are all the things that you take for granted in an operating system, and as an end user, you may not be aware of. So, like, for example, the windowing system, the input subsystem, right? Keyboard, mouse, touch, gaze. There's a whole lot of infrastructure and code that is executed by the machine when you move the mouse, and that's what our team is responsible for. And that's a somewhat unglamorous, but also very important part of the operating system, and it's critical that we go make all of those subsystems work really well. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about the team. This is a screenshot of some of the team members with everybody over the last year working from home, doing all their stuff, and us also really trying hard to make the best of the situation. We do a lot of our work in the open for the developer platform stuff on GitHub, which allows us to, share code in the open and engage with the developer community. We really believe in a culture of continuous learning. So across the team, we give dedicated days of learning so that everybody can, keep up with the latest developments, do some hacking. There's also a week of learning. I think it's every quarter. And as much as possible, we believe in having fun in what we do, and that should instill the values in all the work that we do, right? Like having a fun team that really believes in the mission and purpose of what they're doing, I believe is super important, and it translates across the team. And I think, so that's it for the keynote section. Thank everybody for listening to me.
So can I ask you a couple of questions, Mark?
Sure thing.
So can you give us sort of the story from how you came from all the way from Trinidad to the path to working at Microsoft? Like, were you a college hire? Were you an industry hire? What were some of the first projects you worked on? And
sure.
that kind of...
Yeah. So you went to. I'm not sure how much time you have. I'll try and give you the highlights. I went to University of West Indies in Trinidad, and then I did work for a year in industry there, and eventually went to do a master's in United States in University of Pennsylvania. And out of that, I looked for a job. I wasn't a campus hire at Microsoft. I worked at industry, a small company in New York, and then I moved on. Then I started working at I've always been doing developer stuff. So I worked at a company doing Java development environment. This is, a long time ago. I don't want to embarrass myself how long ago it was. But the company was, trying to target a very small developer market and had some struggles. And at some point, one of the, developers I knew got a job and moved to Microsoft. And it became one of those things where, I also then got interviewed because I knew somebody, and that helped. Then I started off, so I got a job working at Microsoft, entry-level developer. I was actually started at Microsoft in the Bay Area, and this was, we were focused on Apple and doing the browser for the Mac, and this was before Steve Jobs had returned to Apple, which was a really interesting time because there's a lot of questions about what they were doing. Anyway, I worked on a early version of a prototype browser that was really a lot of fun. It didn't really go anywhere. And then I, moved on to work for, start working on Internet Explorer. I think my entire career progression has been focused on, things that interact with the developer or are, somewhat pixel focused. There's, some UI aspect. And that's kind of, followed the arc of my career. And I think another interesting thing for me, if you see like the laundry list of all the stuff I did, I think the last, quote unquote job change I did in my terms was moving from Mac IE to Windows IE. But other than that, I think, I've moved divisions. I've moved, like, the technology area has shifted, and my role has changed. But it was always, a change would happen, and I got moved around and done a lot of stuff. But then I also got asked to, hey, we want you to go do this, which has always kept it fun and interesting.
And so just to give folks sort of some context around your current role and responsibilities, how large is the team that sort of falls under your umbrella?
My team, which is just the developer platform piece, if you recall the slide where I showed those three components of our overall team, my team is around 220 engineers. The overall umbrella, I think for our larger team is around 700 engineers.
Wow.
And I think that, we're a subset of an even larger Windows organization, which is, in the thousands.
And then, so a couple more questions. What location do you work out of currently? And then where are some of the places that folks in your team are working from, like physical locations?
Well, physically, I'm in North Seattle working from home. However, most of the time, normal time, I'll be working in the Redmond office. We have a few remote locations. There's a Vancouver location, Vancouver, Canada. And there's a largest team in India, IDC, we call it IDC, India Development Center. There's a smaller team that we're now building a team in, we're calling it the Africa Development Center in Kenya. We're trying to start that up. There is also a team in Tokyo. And, I think we, like everyone else, are trying to figure out remote work. And how to be, how to make remote work when some parts of us are, when we're going back to the office. And we're not quite clear on that as yet. Some teams we have been looking at whether we can stand up an office in Atlanta, but some other teams are looking at that first, so we're not doing that yet. But we expect some parts of when we go back to work, some parts of the team will still be remote, and how to make that work is something we're going to have to sort through.
Okay, so now I want to shift to a quick personal question that I'll probably ask everybody on the team because it's one of my favorite questions, and that is, what is it for you that you like most about working for Microsoft?
I think a few things. I think first of all, the impact that you get to have. The impact of our product is just astounding. When I was writing code, I was writing code for the browser, and like my code was running on a mouse click, and I was always like, oh my god, like every click of the mouse on like clicking on a link in the browser, that's my code. Mom and dad, I did that. So I think there's that. And so the impact is just astounding, right? Like when you think about 1.2 billion devices running Windows 10, that you're really, you're empowering everybody to do their work, and some of the statistics are just astounding. So there's the impact. Then I think the people, there are just so many smart, intelligent, great people to work with across the whole team. And I think that's just one of the most enjoyable things about working at Microsoft. And then I think the final thing is, every at our company, because of the values are so deeply important. The right way to say it is we're all super nice people to work with, or the off-color way to say it, we have a no asshole policy. Everybody's a nice person, and even when we disagree, it really never gets nasty, and that's not true at every technology company. So I think those are the big three for me.
Excellent. So I wanted to thank you for being our keynote today. Definitely for sharing your experiences and your time. But with that, I'll ask for you to hang on to be a part of our panel. And then feel free to answer any questions in the chat that might come up that are relevant. But with that, I'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker. So thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Okay, so our next speaker is Naresh Chandrasekaran, if I said that correctly. Naresh, if you're ready. Naresh is a software engineering manager for Windows developers and experience.
Thank you, Will. Yes, you did pronounce my name correctly. I'm Naresh Chandrasekaran. I'm an engineering manager in the Windows team in Microsoft. A bit of background about me. I'm from Chennai in India. It is from the southern part of India. Tropical climate. I still miss the tropical weather in this part of the world. And I did my bachelor's in computer science back in India. This was early 2000s, and I joined straight out of college to Microsoft in India. As Mark talked about, we have a development center in India. It's called IDC, India Development Center. That's where I joined straight out of college. Microsoft has been the only place I've been in work till now in my career. And interestingly, all throughout these almost 17 years in the company, I've been with Microsoft. So I'm super glad that I'm representing Microsoft and also Windows in this event. I'm super excited to virtually meet this large audience in this event. And a bit about my career journey. Like with the initial 3 years of my career, I was in India. I started off in software stack. We say that like the bottommost part of the stack are more close towards the kernel and core side of things. I was working on the print spooler and the architecture related to printing technologies there, and then in 2007 moved to US in Redmond, Pacific Northwest. And first of all, the first thing that amazed me and I came to the headquarters of Microsoft here in Redmond was it felt heavenly, like the place here. So the number of buildings that we had and the sophisticated the architecture that we have here, and that was the first thing that impressed me when I came here. It was so awesome. And by the way, we are still investing in making this place even more modern, better, and greater for years to come. So that is something that I love about this company here. And then, like, I spent a good portion of my career on what is called as the data intelligence, like it is also known as data analysis and data engineering systems. So that was super exciting. Like I learned a lot about like machine learning and natural language processing, those kind of technologies. That got me interested to go back to academia, go back to college, and that's when I went back to went back to school, went to University of Washington to do my master's in computer science. Primarily, I wanted to be current in the industry, and I can learn more. And there again, like it's super awesome to have Microsoft as a company support such education programs for its employees, right? For example, my entire master's program was funded by, sponsored by Microsoft, both in terms of the tuition and also the time I needed to put in towards completing the course. So that was super awesome that like I had this opportunity being part of this company to learn, to better my skills, while at the same time like working for this awesome company. Currently, I'm an engineering manager in the Windows org. My particular team is it's called Empower, the word that we picked from Microsoft's mission statement. And my team's goal is primarily to empower every person to get the full potential from Windows. And as Mark touched about, every person means everyone, including persons with permanent or situational disabilities. We do deeply care about our products being accessible, and Windows being like used by more than billions of people. It is all the more important that we design it in such a way that like all those millions of people who are differently able, who are in need of assistive technologies, are being are catered to and serviced by the product. So I'm grateful for this opportunity, especially about the purpose of the work that we are doing here, because it helps visually impaired person to achieve their job. It helps hearing impaired people to go about their lives. So that gives me a sense of gratification, and that's what I'm super thankful for being in this role here. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Super excited to be part of this, like meeting all of you virtually here.
So quick couple of questions. So you're in a senior software engineering management position. So I'm a software engineer, by trade, got a computer science degree. So if I wanted to join your team, what type of technologies do your developers touch? And then how large is your team?
Totally. So as a developer in the Windows organization, right, like the key aspects that we look for and care about is, first of all, like culture is the most important aspect for us. Like as Mark talked about, like growth mindset, collaboration, working well with others, and being a team player. These are like our foundation on which we build the team. And in terms of the technical abilities, right, like the way I look about as I form my team is the analytical and problem solving ability. Like at the end of the day, we as engineers are problem solvers. We try to solve interesting problems and that would have impact in the world. So problem solving using algorithms and like and computer science solutions to enable user experiences for others. That is our the key skill that we look for. And in terms of programming languages and technologies per se, like the way we look at it is, as long as you have the foundations, like computer science foundations, we expect that programming language, like learning a programming language is coachable, and or like you can pick up any new language as needed, any new tools as needed. But in general, like developers or engineers in the Windows org are proficient in one or more programming languages, and they are able to pick up more as needed. And in terms of some other cool technologies that we're working on, like we are investing a lot in AI and machine learning and data related algorithms and all, and those technologies as well. So those are also like preferred to have some hands-on experience.
And then how large is the team that you lead or manage?
I have a team of seven people in my org.
And then my last question for you is my favorite question, and that is, what is it that you personally like most about working for Microsoft?
Personally, for me, like as Mark said, the reach for our work that is it's beyond what we could imagine from any other such company. Like even in Windows org, like the code that we write or the features that we enable is easily being touched by millions and or closer to billions of people. So that definitely is the one thing. The other personal aspect to me is the work-life balance or the importance that is given to having a life outside of work and caring deeply about our people. So that is what I would say personally is exciting for me to be in this company.
Excellent. So Naresh, I wanted to thank you for taking the time out to share your experiences, sort of your journey, and then your current responsibilities there within Microsoft Windows. So thank you. I'll ask that you hang on to join us during the panel discussion. But with that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. So thank you. Okay, so let me stop the spotlight. And our next speaker is Cindy Moline. So Cindy, if you're ready, I'd like to go ahead and introduce you to our candidates tonight. Cindy is a software engineer too on the Windows Developer Experience cloud-powered devices. So Cindy, if you're ready.
Hi, everyone. I apologize. I don't have a camera at the moment. But yes, this is actually an old picture of me. But like, I still kind of look like that. So yeah, I'm originally I was actually born in Naples, Florida, but grew up for most of the time in Orlando. And yes, one of the most frequently questions I get is like, have you been to Disney and Universal? And yeah, I have been. When you live there, it's kind of unavoidable that you'd end up going to the theme park. So yeah, I went to University of Central Florida, and I'll start from the beginning. I applied for Microsoft as an intern during my sophomore year. At the time, I was just like, I need some experience. Like, even when I was applying for Microsoft, like, I didn't know if I was gonna get it because it's such a like well-known company, and I'm like, they only hired the smartest of the smartest, and like I don't know if what I have is enough. Like I'm just a sophomore, like what do I know? But lo and behold, they ended up sending me email to do an interview, and I was so excited. And as soon as I saw the email, I actually ended up I started to study, even though like the interview was like 2 months ahead. And so, yeah, I studied my butt off. And for the interview, I guess you could say I was very over prepared because it was actually not too bad of an interview. And so, yeah, I ended up getting hired as an intern. And since then, like even at that time, I've been working on File Explorer experiences like the entire time, for the most part. At the time, when I was an intern, they had just came out with Windows 8. They were working on Windows 8.1. And so I was doing some stuff with files at that time. And then when when I came back for my second internship, I did end up like saying I want to come back again because I had enjoyed it the first time so much. I ended up working on the new File Explorer that they were working on for Windows Phone. And it was like a pretty new app. And so I was like actually contributing to the code base as an intern, which apparently is not a lot of interns get that kind of experience. So yeah, I really enjoyed my time for both internship. I was working with the same team and I really enjoyed working with those people. In fact, I still talk to them and meet with them regularly. And that was pretty much what influenced my decision to join full time. And so now it's been almost 6 years. And we're working on a new well, we started a new File Explorer for cloud powered devices that I've been working on, and I've really been enjoying my time there. And like compared to what I was doing when I had first joined, it's completely different. Like I'm working with even more languages, and like I feel like I don't know, I just love the product. I feel like because I've been with it from the very start, it means a lot to me. Like I love seeing people use it and talk about it, and I think that's pretty much my ultimate like love for why I like working at Microsoft. I love working on stuff that has a huge impact. Like a lot of people see it and use it. I like to open up the computer and point to it and say, this is what I work on, which I know a lot of people don't get to do. And so, yes, I know it's kind of vain, but I don't care. So yeah, that's pretty much been my journey. And yes, I had to relocate from Florida to Redmond. Redmond is actually where I choose to live. I'm like a quiet person, so I can't actually live in Seattle. But like when I want to do fun things, I go to Seattle. It's a great place to live. There's always a lot of fun things to do, lots of concerts and like events and celebrities coming here and all that stuff. So it's a great place to live.
So I've got a couple of questions for you. So I'll touch on the first one related to that move. When you were an intern, did you also intern in the Redmond, Seattle area?
Yes, I did.
So you got some familiarity. But then what was it like? So when you first went there from Central Florida, and you first went there, what was the adjustment like? Moving or relocating to work at Microsoft.
Oh, that's a good question, because so when you do the internship, you're interning during the summer when it's like really pretty and nice, and like coming from Florida where it's like flat and kind of barren, and then you come here and it's like hilly and like really, really green. It was an adjustment, but like a delightful adjustment because it was so different. It's also cold. I had to kind of get used to that. Like I'd always have to wear a jacket wherever I went. And then eventually when you become full-time, that's when you start to see the like weather, the rainy weather that they talk about, they mention. But honestly, I'm kind of used to it now. Like it doesn't really affect me all that much. The adjustment, I think the adjustment just took me probably like after 2 years. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm used to this. I really like it. You know, my family members always ask like, are you gonna come back? Do you hate it over there? And I'm like, nah, I'm not coming back.
Excellent. So another quick question for you. So I immediately, when you described what you do, I immediately know exactly what you're talking about. But what kind of technologies are you using? Like what languages are you developing software in, like behind the scenes to make that happen with the Windows File Explorer?
So I use typically C++, and I'll also work we have a web app, so we work in React and TypeScript. Let's see, what other technologies? Yeah, that's like mostly it. Oh, C#. I also work in that sometimes. Yes, it changes depending on like what I'm working on, like where in the stack I'm working on, it'll change.
Excellent. And then, so a lot of people probably can kind of relate to your story. They're probably curious about the relocation and what that was like. But what would you share? And this is, like I said, my favorite question about Microsoft and working for Microsoft that you like most for you personally that keeps you working there.
That keeps me working there. Besides, working on something, billions of people get to use. The people are pretty awesome. Like I mentioned, I still keep in touch with people I worked with when I was an intern, and they have been very influential to me in my career, and also just me as a person, like growing and challenging myself. And so, yeah, the people would probably be number one. What I love working about. What I love working. Why I love working at Microsoft. And also something Naresh had brought up was the work-life balance. I also really enjoy the fact that I'm actually an early bird, so I will start working around 7, but then I could leave at 4, and it's no big deal. I just let people know, and they're okay with it. And so I know with my other people that I've talked to outside of Microsoft, or even just in other teams, they'll mention like, yeah, I got this, I got to work all the time. Like, this thing is coming up. I'm like working until like 8, and I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. And so no one expects you to do that here. Luckily, it's like everyone is disrespectful of your time. So yeah, I think that's pretty much. There's a lot of other stuff I really like about it, but those are like the 2 main ones.
Excellent. So Cindy, thank you. Appreciate you sharing your experiences. I'll ask you to kind of hang on for our panel discussion and Q&A as well. But with that, I'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker. Okay, so thanks, Cindy. Our next speaker is Guillermo Rueda, who's a senior software engineer at Microsoft on the Microsoft Windows team. So Guillermo, if you're ready.
Hello, everyone. As I was already introduced, my name is Guillermo. I am originally from Colombia. I'm a senior software engineer. Now, actually, I am 3 days away from turning 10 years in Microsoft now. I actually have had like quite a trip in here. I started back in 2009. I came to Microsoft. I was doing my master's in Mexico, and Microsoft went to recruit. And as a favor to a friend, I was not going to apply. As a favor to a friend, I decided to apply because my belief was that all the brain is in Microsoft, and me being international and all that they're not going to hire me. Why am I going to waste my time and like get all these dreams and hopes when it is not actually going to happen? And I'm so thankful that my friend asked me to do that for her, because then actually the 2 of us got hired during that process. Did an internship in 2009 on the search team. Back then, we were sick. It was still a full-on secret to develop Windows 8. And as an intern, knowing that I was going back to the university, I was still given the chance to work on that. Was given all the information and all the things that we were doing, all the secrets. Got to work on that. Go back to my school to finish my master's. When I went back, I had already a full-time offer to come back to Microsoft, which I did on February 2011. When I came back, I started as a tester, as a software developer engineering test. That I did that as part of the file experiences team that was testing the APIs for software developers that were developing apps for Windows 8. If you needed to access the file, then you needed to go through the API. So I was writing all test automation for that. And if any of you have developed applications on UWP, you know that one of the ways in which you can develop UWP applications is in JavaScript. So in my case, to my surprise, being Microsoft, I actually had to write a framework to do testing of systems in Windows using JavaScript. Everything 100% JavaScript. So it was actually a great experience to have like something that it would have not even crossed my mind that in Microsoft I would have needed to work on JavaScript. After that, I worked there for like 3.5 years, and then I decided to test the waters as a developer, from tester to developer, and I switched to the Logon team, which is if any of you have used Windows 10 and has signed in into Windows 10, then you've gone through what me and my team have worked on. Your circular image on the login screen, Windows Hello added to it, the whole acrylic background, the pretty images that we show nowadays, all those kind of things were things that we work on during the early Windows 10 days. It was a huge surprise for me doing that. When I joined the team, I was under the initial impression of it's just a screen with an input field to enter username and password. How complicated can that be? And all the surprise was humongous. But I'm happy to have done such type of work. After certain years there, I actually decided to try. You've noticed that I like jumping around because I love learning, and one of the things I love about Microsoft is that so Microsoft itself is so large that it even allows you to kind of like change companies without changing company. So as part of a side work that I was doing, I on free time with other heavily invested people, we did early visits to Nigeria when we were like looking into Lagos, where we're looking to do the African Development Center. And as part of that, I met some people that actually invited me to join the marketing org. And I went and worked for marketing for a while as a senior product marketing manager lead with a team, did organized build 1 year here in Microsoft, and came back the year later back to the engineering team. This time I actually worked with Cindy. Cindy was one of the people who interviewed me to go back into engineering, to join the File Explorer team, which Cindy already gave us some detail in that respect. I was in there for a while, and for the last 6 months, I actually was asked, because of interest on management, I was asked by my manager to cover for a manager in another team who decided to leave on maternity leave for an extended leave for 6 months. So my manager told me that team needed a manager to cover during that period of time. So I got the opportunity to test the waters, being an interim manager, and that's what I'm doing right now. We are actually right now about to release the news and interests feature, which, if you're a Windows Insider, you may already have seen the weather on your taskbar and a flyer with some news and some extra information.
So what is it for you that you like most about working for Microsoft?
Oh, what I love the most about Microsoft is how I can be myself. I bring my full self to work. As I said, I love learning. I had a chance to participate on different groups. I got a chance to start international recruiting in Colombia. As I said, I got recruited in Mexico because I just so happened to be my master's there. And as soon as I came back, as I came here, immediately went to knock the doors of HR, being like, hey, how come I grew up my entire life in Colombia, I work in Colombia, I never heard about these things. Do we go to Colombia? And they were like, no. And we actually started talking and doing that. And now every year we go back to Colombia to recruit people. Likewise, if you see my background, is that was one of the wallpapers that Microsoft used for Gay Pride last year, and I still have it out because I'm part of the LGBTQI community. Wasn't out before Microsoft. Microsoft felt like that I have the safe space where I could be myself, and I could bring my whole self to work, being part of the Latino community, being part of the LGBTQI plus community, and beyond. One thing that I didn't do here, but that if you were to see any of my internal emails or communications, actually some of the answers already in the chat, is I'm a highly emojified person, and I love emoji, and winky plus period or plus semicolon is a shortcut for you to get the emoji panel and do any emoji that you want. And I overuse it everywhere where I can. And it doesn't really matter if the email goes all the way to Panos Panay or anyone else. It'll have emojis, and people don't take you less seriously because of that.
Okay, so I've got a sort of a unique question for you. You mentioned that you worked on a different team, and then to the team that you work on now. So what is unique to the Microsoft Windows team, and if there's like a Microsoft Windows team culture, or some of the things that you like specifically about Microsoft Windows and the folks that work within that team?
I would say from so in Windows, I've only worked in the Windows Developer Experiences group through different names that it has gone in the past, and I would say that what I love the most is the culture, and that's what I noticed even when I went outside. The culture that we have within the team is amazing, and people really care about people, and you can really tell how it's people first. It's a quality of time first. Is our work-life balance first. Is your mindfulness first. Someone was asking around about, oh, what do I get as a new employee to grow in my career? You will have things to choose from. That's one of the things that you get within this team. There are official Microsoft efforts, within the Windows team. There are many specific teams, like for the Gleam community is the LGBTQI community, the OLA community is the Latino community. We have teams specifically for Windows of those communities, the subsets of those communities, because of the huge importance that we give to culture and to diversity and inclusion.
Excellent. So Guillermo, I'd like to thank you. Gracias.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I really appreciate you taking the time out to share your experiences. I know everyone on the team is pretty busy, so we really appreciate it. But if you'd like to hang on for our panel discussion, we'd love to get your insight there. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to introduce our next speaker. So let me stop the spotlight real fast. And then our next speaker is Akinwale Alagbe. So Akinwale is a software engineer on WDX DXP Canada. So if you're ready.
Hello, everyone. My name is Akinwale Alagbe. I'm originally from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria to be specific. Joined Microsoft in 2018. I was a college hire, joined Microsoft right out of college, although I had this 9-month gap between leaving Nigeria and moving to North America. So within that time frame, I worked in a startup in Nigeria where I did front-end development for about 2 years. And in terms of my journey to Microsoft, I would say it's actually pretty fun field because personally, I consider myself a little bit stubborn as a child, as a teenager. So I didn't really figure out my career path as early as when I graduated high school, and my parents were like, dude, you got to study. No, they didn't say it that way anyways. It was like, you got to study medicine. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to study medicine. Then I got into a polytechnic in Nigeria called Lagos State Polytechnic in Lagos, Nigeria. Then it was at that point I found this cool thing called programming. And I started learning high-level languages, learned Java and a little bit of Python, although I kind of disagree with what were being taught at that point in time, because we were being taught basic and front-end programming language from the 70s. So I took my stubbornness right from home into the Polytechnic and started learning Java and Python. And it was actually pretty cool until I took time to actually look at C. And I could remember the excitement I felt the first day I wrote a program to allocate the memory using the malloc function. I literally felt like Superman. It was at that point I was actually fascinated with systems programming and doing writing software that actually interacts with the hardware. I learned a little bit of that. Then at that point in time, I was actually full-blown convinced that I'm going to be studying computer science. Then I actually moved to the University of Lagos, but there was very little opportunity for me to actually pursue systems programming because everyone around me was doing web development. So I kind of jumped on the web development bandwagon in Nigeria, and kind of like continued up until when I did my internship in 2016, I actually got to still use Java, specifically backend Spring framework, and I actually something that actually fascinated me during my internship is although it was actually kind of like a high pressure environment compared to what I currently do in Microsoft, yes, currently compared to the work-life balance, there wasn't a lot of work-life balance, despite the fact that I was an intern. I was literally working like a full-blown I don't know, engineer in the team. And but one thing that actually struck me when I did my internship was we kind of developed this application that actually processed billions of naira for the headquarters of the bank, specifically in Nigeria, something like an interbank settlement application. It was at that point I realized I actually want to do something big in my career. I want to do something that work in a company that actually do something that scale to a very large audience. And that actually gave me a huge conviction to start thinking about Microsoft and specific other software companies. And as luck would have it, in 2017, as part of the fact that Microsoft recognized that talent is actually spread globally, irrespective of your race, your color, your gender, Microsoft actually came to Africa for the first time in 2016, which was actually one of a kind. You never really expected that kind of situation to happen. Microsoft came to Africa, and I seized on the opportunity. We have the saying back in Nigeria, they say, Nigeria no they carry last. What that simply means is when an opportunity comes, we actually seize on the opportunity. So I kind of seized on the opportunity, did a lot of preparation, and that was luckily in my final year. We were the first set of I was among the first set of people that were hired directly from Africa. We have a couple in Microsoft today. We have some in Asia. We have some in Xbox. We have some people in Office, and which was actually a pretty unique situation to be in. Kind of like being the trailblazer, getting hired directly from Nigeria into Microsoft. So that was kind of like my journey. Got applied and I got the offer, and I'm here.
Can you talk? So what was it like in the interview process? Like, because a lot of people I think are. So I personally I interviewed with Microsoft a long time ago, and I almost went to work for Microsoft. The only reason I didn't is because I wanted to run my company. But I went through that interview process. But a lot of people sometimes are intimidated by the interview process with Microsoft. So can you talk a little bit about what it was like when you interviewed for the job? Uh-oh. Looks like we might have a little bit of internet. Okay, are you back? Okay, so let me.
He's on mute.
Okay, let me unmute.
Okay.
Okay, good. Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
So, like I said, I think I'm the youngest person here to actually speak about what the interview is like, and I kind of feel honored to be called a veteran, just spending 2 years in Microsoft. Thanks for that. For the interview process, I gotta tell you, it seems like I was the most unlucky person during the interview process because we were supposed to go to South Africa, and I can literally tell you up until that time, I never even had an international passport as a Nigerian, so I had to like maybe do some rushing. But at that point in time, it was actually too late, so I could not really fly to South Africa for my final interview. And as luck, I wouldn't say luck would have it. I was told to do my interview via Skype, and I went to Microsoft. Microsoft had a branch in Nigeria, but it wasn't it wasn't like an engineering space at that point in time. It was more or less marketing and every other thing that is actually really non-tech. And I did my interview from Nigeria. And to be fair, from my home to the place I did the interview was about 3 hours journey. So literally woke up around 4 a.m. that day, and I got to my interview place around like 8 a.m. because of traffic. If there's anybody from Nigeria in the space, in the meeting, they really know how the traffic is really like in Nigeria. I got there around 8 a.m. and I was really under pressure. Despite the fact that I prepared, I never really thought I was actually going to get the offer because I was really under pressure, seriously stressed. And the kind of people I met during my interview, they made me felt at home. They made me feel calm. And it was like I was talking to people I already knew. These people were super nice to me, and actually that completely calmed my nerves. And talking to my interviewer, it wasn't seeming like I was actually in an examination. It was seeming like I was actually talking to someone and we are trying to solve a problem together. And I don't consider myself a comedian, but I think I cracked a few jokes and people laughed. That kind of calms my nerves, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And the interview was actually a breeze. I wouldn't speak on the technical side of it because I kind of prepared, but the fact that when I got to the interview space, people were super nice, we're having a dialogue, and it was really cool. And it was at that point I realized this is the place to be, because I never thought I could be in a place where I could be doing something that would scale to that will be at the scale of what I did in my internship or something greater than that. And at the same time, feel at home. It was kind of like you are shooting for a unicorn. And at that interview, during that interview that day, I realized I found that unicorn, and it was super awesome.
Okay, so my favorite question. So now that you've been at Microsoft, you're a 2-year veteran. What is it that you like most so far about working for Microsoft?
Yeah, I would say the culture, but the question I like to ask is what does the culture means? But I think it's actually because we have a bunch of interesting people within the organization that actually shape the culture. And I think interesting people actually make great culture. Yeah, the tech is great. You could see what we do with regards to our tech, like what we put out in terms of our Surface, the operating system. These are actually interesting piece of product. And this is actually an underlying in the fact that we have good people, we have great people, we have smart minds, we are ready to solve a problem. And I never get unblocked if I have a problem. There's always someone next door that's actually ready to solve my problem. Right now, we are in the COVID pandemic. It's actually the next Teams chat away. That's actually something I really love about Microsoft. But something that's actually way more personal to me is in the area of the fact that Microsoft I really emphasize diversity and inclusion. And it's not really in the way they hire. It's actually reflected in the products that we build in Microsoft. It's I can give specific example. My first day in Microsoft, one of my core priorities in diversity and inclusion was to actually solve a problem for people who don't necessarily have what you consider the full feature, the full sense organ to be able to use a particular product. And I never thought I could actually do that early in my career. Someone I was reached out to by the accessibility team in Microsoft around about a year ago that we should solve some accessibility problems with regards to the internal documentation we use, and which was actually a huge learning opportunity. Even I was passionate about accessibility. I really did not really know the core tools, the process, and how to actually identify some accessibility bugs and stuff. And it's so fascinating to me that Microsoft has actually done a lot in this space. And after developing the solution, it just did not stop there. I reached out to my manager, and my manager was like, you know what? Let's make this open. Let's kind of release this out there. Let's make this open source, because we take a dependency on a software known as MediaWiki, and we use this open source product, and we contributed back to the community. And the fact that because Wikipedia is actually based on MediaWiki, so every changes we made in Wikimedia was actually transferred to Wikipedia. So this is solve a problem internally for Microsoft, and it became something for which everybody becomes something that was actually a problem that was solved for everyone. I think this is actually great in terms of what's the priorities of the organization, not just the culture, the people are great, but the culture, the priorities, and and empathy. Yeah, I think there's a lot of empathy in the organization. I think that's the pretty big deal.
Excellent. So great experiences. I appreciate that you took the time to share those experiences. I'll ask you to hang on for our panel discussion and for the quick Q&A. But with that, yeah. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. But thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next speaker, let me stop the spotlight here and move forward to our next speaker. So Jasmine Brown, and Jasmine is a software engineer. So WD, you probably have to explain the acronyms there the right way, but welcome, Jasmine. If you're ready, I'll let you take over the virtual microphone. I think you're on mute right now.
You?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm Jasmine. I'm originally from South Carolina. The acronyms real quick. So Microsoft is split into several larger orgs. I think there's 8 of them. So W plus D is one of those larger orgs. WDX is a smaller org within that. And CWD is where Cindy, Guillermo, and I and Nishad work. I'm not sure exactly where Naresh is anymore. Sorry, Naresh.
You're on mute, Jasmine.
How am I on mute? I'm not touching anything. Okay. How long was I on mute for? I'm so sorry.
Just a second. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, so I got my undergrad at Georgia Tech in Atlanta, and I'm currently doing my master's at the University of Washington. So I do that part-time. I take like a class a quarter. I've been at Microsoft for right at 2.5 years now. And before Microsoft, gosh, I was all over the place. Actually did 6 internships before I got to Microsoft full time because I was working and paying my way through school. So I felt like it was the best way to gain experience and, you know, try to start to pay off some of those student loans at the same time. And going through that whole process, the whole time I was in undergrad, I was like, oh, like I'm not going to apply to Microsoft or Google or like big tech. Like, oh, those places would never hire me. It was really the opinion that I had kind of myself as a developer. But a friend of mine interned at Microsoft and he came back after that summer and he was like, oh, it's so amazing. Like, Jasmine, you really got to try it. You know, you're not giving yourself enough credit. Like, really just put your name in the hat and go for it. So he put my resume in the referral portal. And I got an interview following that. And I actually didn't make it past the interview the first time. So that was a little disappointing. I made it to the final round, but I didn't get through it. And so I was like, well, if I made it to the final round, like I'm going to reapply again. So I reapplied, made it all the way through with a lot of practice and preparation. So Microsoft was the last internship I did before I graduated, and then I came back on full time. And so I've been working on Windows since then. So I actually work on the File Explorer alongside Cindy. I've been doing that since about April. Before that, I've worked on the timeline feature, and I've worked on the start menu. So I've gotten to touch a lot of the surfaces on Windows, which has been really, really cool because like a lot of other people said, I love getting to work on something that people actively interact with. My master's is in human-centered design, and so I do a lot of like user research and stuff like that, and I'm just really passionate about the user having a good experience. So getting to actually work to build those beautiful experiences for the user is super, super rewarding for me. So yeah.
So where are you from originally, and where do you currently, what location do you work from?
So I'm from South Carolina, but I am working out of the Redmond office, but I'm working from home now. So I live in Seattle proper, like in the city. So my commute when we were going into work was like 45 minutes. So it was a little hefty, but Microsoft has, they're called connectors, and it's just like our own little bus system to get everybody to and from work. And so the connector, I really think, makes living far from work very possible because they have Wi-Fi on the bus. You're not the one driving, like sitting in traffic, being frustrated. So yeah, that's been really nice. And I definitely echo a lot of what Cindy said about like adjusting to the Pacific Northwest. It's very, very different. The weather during the summer is beautiful. And if anything, I live here for the summer because the winters can be kind of rough, but after like kind of getting all my stuff together, like I finally learned how layering works because in South Carolina, you do not need to know that. I finally learned how layering works and like bought some sweaters and I have like a proper rain jacket. So I feel like kind of once you feel out what you need and what needs to change, it's pretty easy to adjust to.
So to touch on your background, so what kind of languages, were you using in your internships? And then what languages did you start using, from a software development perspective once you joined Microsoft?
So my earlier internships, I was using Java. As I learned more about CS about computer science and kind of realized more of the space I wanted to work in, I transitioned to learning a lot more JavaScript and working in like AngularJS and React. So more and more of my experiences, I was trying to make sure they were kind of like JavaScript and front end focused because that's really what I wanted to be doing. And then as I moved into Microsoft, I was actually specifically hired into Windows because of my JavaScript background, because that's something new they were kind of starting to work with. So it's been cool to get to kind of stretch that muscle in that space, but it's also been an interesting challenge because so much of my background is in Java, and Windows is written in a lot of like C++ and C#. I've had to kind of like learn those along the way. So it's nice to have like something I'm comfortable and like confident with to work on, but also have something like challenging alongside it.
Excellent. So you mentioned something a little bit earlier that I want to kind of go back to, because I think it's important for this particular audience of candidates, because we've actually had one of our keynote speakers was someone that attended one of these events in the past. And then now he's a program manager at Microsoft, and he keynoted for one of our events. And his experience was that he actually went through the interview process, but it was a matter of finding the right fit. So he went through the interview process more than once. So you mentioned that you went through the interview process the first time, and then the second time you were hired on, and then you prepared for the second round of interviews when you interviewed again. So can you talk about a little bit of what you prepared for and any hints and tips for the candidates?
Hints and tips. So I would definitely say, yeah, you really want to have your data structures and algorithms down if you're looking for a developer role. Just having those foundationally to like rely on is super helpful. But when you're in the interview, you're going to be asked a lot of questions about those things in context. So it won't necessarily just be like, implement this data structure. It'll be like, here's a situation you were given, like what data structure would you pick and why? And like, why'd you choose to use this? So it's really about like being able to apply your knowledge, not just having it. So I think practicing like in situation things is very helpful. So like cracking the coding interview is one amazing resource. Leak Code is another good one. There's so many like online resources and just like playgrounds for you to practice your coding, which is super, super helpful. I also think another thing that I did very differently the second time I interviewed was I really recognized that I was interviewing Microsoft. Also, like when you go into an interview, it's not just them asking you questions. Like you're going to work here and you're going to give your time and your energy to this place. So like you need to come with your questions too and really find out, is this where I want to work? So I think I was really a little like more focused in on our conversations about like, is this a good fit for me? What am I gonna gain here? How am I gonna be assisted? And like, how is my career progression gonna look based on the people around me, based on me? Like, do I have mentorship? Like just really try to sit down and think of like, what are the things that are important to me in a workplace, and ask those questions to everyone that you interact with on the interview loop. Cause like we have this panel, like everybody's gonna have kind of different experiences to weigh in on. So I'd say have a list of questions and like ask those to everybody so you can find out if Microsoft is really the place for you.
So last but not least, my favorite question, and that is, what is it that you personally like most about working for Microsoft?
So I do echo what a lot of other people said. Like the work-life balance is incredible. If I need to drop off at 2 p.m. because something is going wrong somewhere else in my life, that's totally fine. We have well-being days now, which is amazing. So if you need to take a day and just take care of your mental health, like they totally support you doing that, which is awesome. But to answer some things a little differently, I feel like I can only really speak for my org, for CWD, but we're really supported to try anything, and not even in like just like a technical space, but if you're like, wow, there's really this like gap in knowledge or gap in experience that I noticed is happening in my group, like you can really go forth and tackle that, and like you're really supported to do that. So since we've been working from home, we've been trying a lot of things like, we want to have coffee chats because we all miss just kind of like that camaraderie of going and sitting in the kitchen and like having a coffee for a few minutes with your coworkers. So like you just got together with a few people and we're like, we're going to just make this a thing and like see if it works. And there's been a lot of support around that, which is really cool. The other thing, Microsoft has amazing benefits. I feel very taken care of at this company. Like Naresh, they're paying for my master's program. We have really great like medical benefits. We have really great benefits for like families and just single people. My glasses are covered. I order so many glasses because like, I don't know, they just take really good care of you and make it easy for you to take care of yourself so you can bring your whole self to work all the time.
Excellent. So thank you, Jasmine. So with that, I'm going to transition us. I wanted to make sure to leave some time for folks that are the candidates. to ask some questions in the chat, and then I'll ask those questions to the team. So for the Microsoft team of panelists, those that are still on with us, if you'd like to turn on your video, and then I'm going to start out with a couple of my questions, but then to all the candidates that are on, if you have questions for the team, please ask those questions in the chat, and then I'll do my best to ask some of your questions to the team. So for those folks on the Microsoft side, if you'd like to turn on your video, I'm going to turn off my slides and we can have a little conversation. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. I think the Windows team did an excellent job of selecting presenters that have shared a variety of diverse experiences and paths into Microsoft and just experiences now. So one of the questions I wanted to ask first was around Microsoft culture and mentorship, and then tying that to sort of the ERGs. So Guillermo, you touched on some of the different ERGs at Microsoft. So I'd like to maybe ask Guillermo if you'd like to start by talking about the importance of ERGs at Microsoft and how they sort of fit into the Microsoft mission.
Absolutely. I think it's the importance of it is it all aligns with diversity and inclusion. A lot of times you don't realize, even when you are a member of a particular community, you don't realize how things are different in other communities until you leave something, or until you experience something that is completely different, that is not necessarily bad or is not necessarily wrong. It's just different. It's like one of the examples for me as a Latino is, or as a Colombian, I cannot speak for Latin America there, but it's the fact that when you come to the US, actually, an interesting hint, the same thing happened to me when I went to Nigeria. I noticed that people are very upfront to, like, if you ask something, or if you ask a favor or something happens and the answer is no, people will upfront tell you no. Meanwhile, for us in Colombia in particular, if the answer is never no, the answer is a 5-minute explanation of why it cannot be yes. And it's kind of like a thing where, like, when you come here and you immediately get the heat of, like, someone saying no to your face, it's quite offensive from where I come from. But then because of these ERGs, you actually get to understand that, it's like, it's not bad intention, it's not offensive, it's different ways to experience. And you get those communities where you get to ask, where you get to learn, where you get to mention to other people the things that happen to you, the things that you want to educate yourself on, and many other things that can happen, even like work habits. Or even in we have, like, in my case, for example, we have groups of a particular teams group just for Colombians in Redmond. We once a month, before pandemic, we were getting together to just have lunch and talk about the Colombian food.
Nice. I'm envious of that. So my next question is around mentorship. So I'm going to pose this question as an open question, and maybe someone on the team of panelists or presenters that had experience where you got, or how you sort of landed a mentor, and then maybe how a mentor has helped you progress through your career. So if anyone has an experience that they like to share around mentorship at Microsoft.
I can start.
Cindy. Yep, go ahead.
So when you join, you actually get assigned an onboarding buddy. So I'm going to say that's like your default mentor when you join.
Yep.
But then, over time you get to know people and you start to see the ones you get along with a lot and inspire you. And so at that point, it's kind of up to you. Like you have the option of kind of setting it up with them, like trying to meet with them and probe them for questions. And it doesn't even need to be formal. Like, you don't need to be like, hey, you're my mentor, give me the answers to my questions. It can be very organic. It can you just ask them for questions like, hey, you want to go get some coffee and let's talk. And so that has been my experience personally. But they also have programs too where it is more formal. You can, there's a lot of organizations. For instance, we have like a Women of WDX where they'll set up the mentoring program for you. They'll like randomly assign someone to you, or if you want to mentor someone, like you also have that option. And so you have options either formally or informally.
Excellent. So I'm going to pull one of the questions from the chat from Courtney. And it was mentioned that Microsoft assists employees with continuing education. Can someone speak to that? Naresh, I think you mentioned that you went back to get your master's while you were at Microsoft. So what are the mechanics around that? So if I was a candidate, I came to work for Microsoft, how does the tuition reimbursement work, or what are some of the benefits around that?
Totally, I'm happy to share that experience. So the way it works is like if you we have a program with the University of Washington, which is called as Professional Masters Program, and there is an equivalent such program for the MBA as well at the Foster School of Business in UW, where Microsoft is very invested in these programs in the sense that like it is especially to grow the talent here, and as part it's very closely tied with UW. So the way it works is when you are interested in pursuing either a master's, MS degree, or an MBA, you just go through a regular application process for the evening program. And as part of the application process, there are a couple of the process involves getting an approval from your manager at Microsoft. That again pretty much is like it's very supportive. Like the environment is very supportive of continuing your education, and we try to make sure that like the education that you get could also be like applied on the job as well. So there is like mentorship within Microsoft as a community to help with choosing those courses that would be very impactful to the work that you are doing in here. And typically these programs are about a year and a half to 2 years type of duration, depending on MS or MBA. And the tuition reimbursement, we have a cap on an annual cap on a particular dollar amount. I think it's about like some 10K or 12K around that time. Around it is, but it is pretty much at par with what a tuition would cost for these programs. So and then one more thing that I would add there is there is a lot of flexibility on spacing out the program as well. For example, my master's, even though I could have completed it in 2.5 years, I took like 3.5 years just for my to pace it according to my work load as well. So that is also very supportive from that regard. So absolutely, I totally love the program, and Jasmine is also going through this, so she could also add some more insights into this.
Yeah, Jasmine.
Yeah, I don't have anything super different to say than what Naresh said. I just wanted to add that it's not only for the University of Washington. If you can go to any school, as long as you can vouch for the work that you're doing in class is relevant to the work that you're doing at work, it could be anywhere.
Totally, yeah.
Excellent. So I have sort of a current events type of question. And if I have to default it, I'll default it to Mark and Akinwale. But if anyone else wants to chime in on this one, feel free. So I know like COVID-19 has impacted the way we work. So, you know, folks are writing code from home, managing teams from home, basically working from home. But from a product perspective, or some of the services that Microsoft Windows produces, have there been challenges that you had to address related to COVID-19, whether it's capacity because more people are using the products, or whether it's introducing new features related to the current pandemic?
I can go first, and then others can jump in. So, you know, I think just like everybody, we kind of struggled to, you know, figure all this out. It's all been a big, you know, experiment. I recall, like, I think it was last March, like there was this drumbeat. We may all be working from home for a little bit, I went into the office, wrote a document on how we should all work from home, and sent it out, and it instantly went viral. And at the time, I just did not expect we would be in this situation a year from now. I mean, so I think on the learnings, I think we've all gotten a lot better about team usage and etiquette. Like recognizing people when they have their hand up. There's a whole meeting within the meeting around the chat, which we've been doing here. So we've all kind of learned that. And we've also learned things about like we shortened our meetings. So a 30-minute meeting is now 25 minutes. A 1-hour meeting is now 50 minutes. And that really helps because, in a typical environment in the office, you get up, you leave, you go to a conference room or you go back to your office and there's a transition. And without the transition, it was just really grueling. And then the mechanics of, just working from home, I think it just kind of grounded everybody. I know I've had to emphasize as a leader, take care of yourself, take care of your family. Your health is important. I think Jasmine just mentioned we're now having well-being days so that you can get extra time off. All of that I think is just kind of the learnings. On the product side, we saw our capacity, particularly for like cloud-based offerings, go through the roof. I think early pandemic, we struggled, like services like WVD, which is a way for you using Windows apps in the cloud. The usage was outpacing like what we had projected by like 6x. And you just think of the mechanics of, well, you need more machines, you need more data centers. And that was a challenge for us. On the product side for Windows itself, we see new aspects in the way people are using their machines, and we're working hard on, what we do in the next release on making it even better for everybody, making it even better so people can be productive and so forth.
Excellent. Guillermo, did you want to add something?
I did. I could not waste the opportunity to make a plug to my feature. Actually, because if you think about every morning, you get up as part of a lot of us during the commute time, we will pull out the phone and read the news, or you will get to somewhere and pull out your phone and read the news. One of the things that we did was the fact that because now people are working from home, you are spending more time sitting on your computer, and your commute becomes usually from the kitchen to your desk. So now what we did is we're like, oh, hey, how about instead of disrupting that, we bring those to your desktop? That's one of the reasons why you now actually are seeing on the Windows Insider channels already this opportunity to have the news exposed directly on your taskbar. And just yesterday I read from John Cable, one of the directors here at Microsoft, that my old team, the Logon team, is releasing support for multiple cameras for Windows Hello, because more people are nowadays plugging the laptop to their monitors and having separate cameras to have better experiences over their setup from working from home. So now they can use those secondary cameras if supported as Windows Hello devices as well to do instant sign-in.
Wow, excellent. So with respect for time, I want to give sort of some final words and next steps to Jesse or Victor, if you wanted to add anything as far as the opportunities that are available, what candidates should expect. So Jesse, do you want to talk a little bit about the process?
Yeah, I'll go briefly. As it normally is, make sure you fill out the interest form. It's been posted in the chat a couple times. I know Will also send it out. But it's basically a 3-step process where the first step will be an HR phone screen with myself or someone from the team. The second step will be an online technical screen. So this is different from previous events where we'll do a live technical screen and you're actually talking with another human on the other end. This time we're doing online technical screen. It'll be a 3 to 5 question test that you have 60 minutes to complete. And then hopefully if you pass that, you will move on to the virtual final round interview, which you'll receive details for. But again, 3-step process.
Excellent. Victor, did you want to add anything about, any outlier opportunities for like PMs or anything related to that?
Yeah, I think that Jesse covered the next steps there very well. For PMs, if there's a way to capture those backgrounds and those resumes, we're happy to take a look and see where we can find fitting homes for them.
Excellent. So for those of you that are interested in PM roles, just make sure that you've submitted your resume to us, hbcuconnect.com/Microsoft/Windows. I'll email that out as well, so that we have your latest resume, and then I'll share with the Microsoft Windows team. But I'd like to thank everyone for attending. Without you guys coming to these events would not be possible. And these events, as you might guess, are super important. Microsoft has stayed committed. Even once we hit COVID-19, before COVID-19, we were doing events physically. Instead of Microsoft, stopping, their commitment to diverse hiring, they've stepped it up, and we've done even more events virtually. So kudos to Microsoft. I'd like to thank the Microsoft Windows team for taking the time out. I know everybody's busy, so thank you for taking the time out to share your experiences and share things with our team. And so in the effort to be inclusive, Akinwale, I'm going to give you the last word.
Well, that's quite interesting. Wasn't expecting that.
Yes, sir.
First thing first, I'm going to say thank you to everybody that actually attended this meeting. It's actually great, and I hope to see some of you all actually in Microsoft, so we can actually go for coffee, hopefully after the pandemic. And thank you to Will, and thank you to Microsoft, because I'm giving the opportunity to come from Nigeria to Microsoft, and I'm giving the opportunity also to speak to a large group of people. This is actually wonderful. Thank you to Microsoft, and specifically thank you to Windows team for making my dreams come true. So wishing you all the best.
Excellent. So Mark, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else as our keynote.
Sure. I just want to, echo thanking everybody. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you for all the attendees. Thank you, Will and HBCU. Great event, and we're looking forward to the next steps. And thank everybody for all their interest in Microsoft.
Thank you. Okay, thanks everyone. So look forward to email from me with next steps and instructions. And good luck to all of you on your interviews. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Awesome.
Bye, everyone.